My son, Tyler, walked into my garage at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. He wasn't wearing his usual grease-stained jeans, he was wearing a slim-fit suit and holding a tablet like it was a shield. He didn't look at the 1965 Shelby Cobra I was currently restoring, a car that had been his favorite since he was 10 years old. He looked at me, and his eyes were full of a pity that felt like a cold rain. "Dad," he said, his voice measured and professional, "we need to talk about the incident with the fuel line. The neighbors saw you struggling with the fire extinguisher yesterday. You could have burned the whole block down. Brooke and I have been looking at the liability. You're 75. Your reflexes aren't what they used to be, and your memory is clearly slipping. We found a wonderful place in the valley called the Summit. It's a luxury living community with 24-hour care. We've already signed a letter of intent to auction off the collection. It's for your own safety, and frankly, the money from the cars will ensure you have the best care for the rest of your life." I didn't stop my work. I was torquing the head bolts on a small block V8, and I didn't want to lose the sequence. I finished the last bolt, set the wrench down, and wiped my hands on a rag that smelled of high-octane fuel and history. I looked at my son and said, "I suppose the machinery is getting a bit loud for you, Tyler. If you think the garage is too dangerous, I'll start draining the fluids this afternoon. My name is Henry Miller. I am 75 years old, and for 45 years, I was a lead flight engineer and a master A&P mechanic for a major international airline. I spent my career making sure that machines carrying hundreds of lives at 30,000 feet were perfect. I wasn't a man who just changed oil. I was a man who understood the physics of failure. I could hear a microscopic crack in a turbine blade just by the way the air whistled through the intake. I knew how to read the language of metal and heat. I spent my life in a world where close enough meant a catastrophe. When I retired, I turned my attention to vintage European and American sports cars. I restored them not just for their beauty, but for their precision. A well-tuned engine is a clock that tells the time in horsepower. My late wife, Martha, was the one who understood the soul behind the steel. She knew that when I was in the garage, I wasn't hiding from the world, I was maintaining it. We built this house and this workshop together. It's a 5-bay garage with climate control and a lift that would make a professional racing team jealous. When Martha passed away 3 years ago, the silence in the house was deafening, so I spent more time in the shop. It was the only place where things still made sense. But lately, the machines had started betraying me. Or so it seemed. A brake line on my Jaguar E-Type had suddenly developed a leak the day after Tyler visited. A set of spark plug wires on the Ferrari had been swapped in the wrong firing order, making the engine backfire like a gunshot. And then there was the incident Tyler mentioned, a fuel line that had supposedly come loose, spraying gasoline near a hot shop light. I knew my hands weren't shaking. I knew I hadn't touched those brake lines. And I knew for a fact that I had double-checked the fuel clamps. 30 years in aviation safety taught me to look for human factors. In my world, when a perfectly maintained machine suddenly fails in multiple unrelated ways, it's rarely an accident, it's sabotage. I started looking at the metadata of my life. I noticed that Tyler had been dropping by late at night to check on me, always staying in the garage for a few minutes while I went inside to wash up for dinner. He thought he was being clever, but he forgot that I had installed a high-definition, 360-degree security system inside the shop clocks and the tool chests years ago to protect the collection from theft. The gaslighting was a calculated engine failure. Tyler and his wife, Brooke, were deep in a hole of their own making. Bad real estate investments and a lifestyle they couldn't afford. They didn't see me as a father, they saw me as a $4 million inventory sitting on 4 wheels. They needed me declared incompetent so they could break the irrevocable trust Martha and I had set up, which prevented the sale of the collection until after my death. They were drugging my evening tea with a heavy sedative that left me groggy and confused the next morning, making it easy for them to point at my decline. But Tyler made a fundamental error in his diagnosis. He assumed that because I was old, my systems were failing. He didn't realize that I was simply waiting for the right moment to perform a full-throttle bypass. After he left that Saturday, thinking I had surrendered, I didn't drain a single drop of oil. I went to my workbench and opened my hidden diagnostic laptop. I pulled the footage from the week before. There was Tyler, clear as day, using a pair of wire cutters to nick the brake line on the Jaguar. There he was again, loosening the fuel clamp on the Cobra while I was in the kitchen. He was a saboteur, and he was a clumsy one. I didn't call the police immediately. I wanted a total system failure for them. I contacted an old friend, Silas Thorne, a retired NTSB investigator and a man who specialized in corporate fraud. I also contacted the lead appraiser for one of the world's most prestigious automotive auction houses, a man who owed me a favor from a restoration I did on a rare pre-war Bugatti 10 years ago. I invited Tyler and Brooke over for a final farewell dinner on Friday night. I told them I was ready to sign the papers for the summit and the auction contract. They were ecstatic. They thought the engine was seized, and they were ready to scrap it for parts. Friday evening was clear and cool. The garage was glowing under the bright LED lights I'd installed, the chrome on the cars reflecting like mirrors. Tyler and Brooke arrived early, accompanied by a woman they introduced as a transition specialist, but who I knew was actually a private social worker they had hired to document my supposed confusion. Behind them was the appraiser they had chosen. A local guy who was clearly in their pocket, ready to undervalue the cars so they could hide the true proceeds from the trust. "Come into the shop," I said, my voice sounding a bit more tired than usual for the benefit of the social worker. "I want to show you the Cobra one last time. It's the heart of the collection." Tyler walked over, his hand on my shoulder in a gesture that felt like a snake coiling around a branch. "You're doing the right thing, Dad," he whispered. "It's time to rest." Brooke was already walking around the Ferrari, calculating the commission in her head. I looked at the appraiser Tyler had brought. "Mr. Evans, I believe. Why don't you take a look at the engine block on the Cobra? I think there's a serial number discrepancy you might want to document." The man leaned over the engine bay, peering into the depths of the V8. Tyler and Brooke stood close by, eager to see the process begin. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small remote. I didn't say anything. I pressed the button. On the large flat-screen monitor I used for technical manuals, a video began to play. It wasn't a manual. It was a high-resolution, night vision recording of Tyler in this very garage 3 nights ago. The room went silent as the video showed him carefully unscrewing the fuel line clamp and then looking around to make sure the cameras, the ones he thought he'd disabled, weren't watching. Tyler's face went from smug satisfaction to a sickly, pale gray. "Dad," he started, his voice trembling, that's not what it looks like. I was just checking the connection. I didn't stop the video. I let it play to the part where he talked to Brooke on his cell phone, his voice loud and clear through the shop's hidden microphones. He was saying, "Once the old man is in the home, we'll move the Cobra to the warehouse in Vegas. The appraiser will list it as a replica, and will pocket the $1.5 million difference. He's so drugged up he won't even remember he owned it." The social worker, Sarah, backed away from Tyler as if he were a live wire. The appraiser he brought tried to head for the door, but he found it wouldn't open. I had engaged the heavy-duty magnetic locks. Just then, Silas Thorne and 2 officers from the state police stepped out from my office in the back of the garage. Silas was holding a folder full of evidence, including the lab results from my tea and the digital trail of Tyler's secret bank accounts. "Tyler," I said, my voice as steady as a flight deck landing, "you spent your life thinking I was a simple mechanic. You forgot that a mechanic's job is to identify the flaw in the system and remove it. You aren't just a flawed component, son. You're a catastrophic failure. I've spent 45 years keeping planes in the air, and I'm not about to let my own life crash because of a greedy co-pilot." The police officers moved in. Tyler started to shout, blaming Brooke, claiming he was under pressure, begging me to reconsider. I didn't say a word. I just watched as they were handcuffed. Brooke was screaming about her reputation, but nobody was listening. Sarah, the social worker, looked at me with a profound sense of shame. "Mr. Miller, I had no idea," she said. "I was told you were in danger." I replied, "I was. But the danger wasn't the machinery. It was the people I let into the shop. You can leave now, Sarah. I believe Silas has some questions for you about your professional fees." When the garage was finally empty, the silence was different. It wasn't the silence of loneliness, it was the silence of a clean workspace. I walked over to the Cobra and picked up a wrench. Silas stayed behind for a moment, looking at the cars. "You okay, Henry?" he asked. I looked at the 1965 Shelby, the car I had built with Tyler when he was a boy, before the greed took hold of him. "I'm fine, Silas. The engine just needed a bit of a tune-up. Some parts can't be repaired, they just have to be replaced." A year has passed since that night. Tyler and Brooke are serving 5-year sentences for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and conspiracy. The local appraiser lost his license and is facing his own set of charges. I didn't sell the collection. Instead, I've turned the 5-bay garage into the Miller Institute for Mechanical Excellence. Every day, 6 kids from the local foster care system come over. They are kids who the world thinks are broken or malfunctioning. I teach them how to rebuild engines. I teach them that if you treat a machine with respect, it will never lie to you. They call me Chief. They don't look at me with pity, they look at me with awe when I show them how to hand-file a piston ring or how to listen to the valves. I've realized that my legacy isn't the $4 million worth of cars. My legacy is the knowledge that is now being passed down to hands that actually value the work. We're currently restoring a 1969 Mustang Mach 1, and the girl leading the project, a 17-year-old named Cassie, has a better ear for a vacuum leak than most of the engineers I worked with at the airline. I still think about Tyler sometimes. I wonder where I went wrong in his assembly. But then I realize that even the best engineers can't account for every variable. Sometimes, a part just has a hidden flaw that doesn't show up until it's under pressure. I've learned to accept that. I've learned that the most important part of maintenance isn't fixing what's broken, it's protecting what's still good. I sit on my porch in the evenings now, looking out at the garage. The lights are on, and the sound of laughter and the clinking of tools drifts up to the house. Martha would have loved this. She would have loved seeing the house full of life again. I am 76 now, my heart is steady, and my garage is a sanctuary of truth. I am Henry Miller, the master mechanic, and for the first time in a very long time, all my systems are go. If you are listening to this, and you feel like the people around you are trying to convince you that your time is up, remember this: you are the lead engineer of your own life. You know your own tolerances better than anyone. Don't let someone who doesn't even know how to hold a wrench tell you that your engine is failing. Check your own gauges, trust your own ears, and if you find a saboteur in your shop, don't be afraid to cut the power. You've spent a lifetime building your legacy, don't let anyone turn it into scrap. The world is full of people who want to take the easy way out, people who want the prize without the work. But a real mechanic knows that there are no shortcuts to quality. There is only the truth of the machine and the integrity of the man who maintains it. My garage is open, the air is clear, and the work goes on. And that, in the end, is the only thing that matters. I go back down to the shop. Cassie is stuck on a timing issue with the Mustang. I don't give her the answer. I just tell her to listen. Listen to the rhythm, Cassie, I say. The engine wants to run. It's trying to tell you what's holding it back. She closes her eyes, tilts her head, and after a moment, she smiles. I see it, Chief, she says. The distributor is a tooth off. I nod, feeling a sense of pride that no amount of money could ever buy. This is my life. This is my family. And the timing is finally perfect. People ask me if I'm bitter about what happened with my son. I tell them that bitterness is like rust, it eats away at the structure until there's nothing left. I don't have room for rust in my shop. I have room for oil, for steel, and for the future. Tyler chose his path, and I chose mine. I chose to keep the lights on. I chose to keep the engines running. And I chose to believe that there is still a place for an old man who knows how to fix things. The sun goes down, but the garage stays bright. It's a lighthouse for anyone who wants to learn the value of a hard day's work and the beauty of a machine that does exactly what it was designed to do. I am Henry Miller. My torque is accurate, my fluids are clean, and I am exactly where I need to be. The audit of my life is complete, and the results are unanimous. I am fit for flight. I pick up a polishing cloth and start on the Cobra's fender. The metal is cool and smooth under my hand. It's a good car. It's a good life. And as the stars come out over the valley, I know that I've finally achieved the one thing every engineer dreams of, a perfect balance. The pressure is equalized, the vibrations have smoothed out, and the journey ahead is clear. I am home, and for the first time, I am not just the mechanic, I am the pilot. I think about the people who are currently in care communities, because their children convinced them they were broken. I wish I could tell them all to check their own security cameras. I wish I could tell them that their wisdom is the most powerful tool in the box. But mostly, I wish I could tell them that it's never too late to rekey the locks and take back the shop. You are the master of your own mechanics. Never forget that. As I finish the fender and turn off the main shop lights, leaving only the small lamp over my workbench, I feel a deep sense of contentment. The tools are all back in their places. The floors are swept. The engines are quiet, resting for tomorrow's run. I am 76 years old, and I have never felt more powerful. I am the ghost in the machine, the guardian of the gears, and the man who knows exactly how to open the door. This is my story, and it is a story of a life that is still very much in motion. I walk back up to the house, my footsteps steady on the gravel. I look up at the moon and think of Martha. We did it, Martha, I whisper. The legacy is safe. And as I close the front door and engage the deadbolt, the one I installed myself, I know that I am the only one who holds the key. The night is quiet, the world is at peace, and my heart is hitting every beat with the precision of a masterwork. Good night, world. The master mechanic is resting, but he'll be back in the shop at dawn. The work is never done, and that is the greatest blessing of all.